traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the cultural battle over the transing of children, it rages on, actually. There is some good news and some less good news. On the good news front, this week, Children's National Hospital in D.C. became the latest children's hospital to end the prescribing of medications to assist children in quote-unquote transitioning to the opposite sex. The Gender Development Program page of the website for the hospital now has a message for both new existing patients, alerting them of this change, which they blame on the, quote, escalating legal and regulatory risks to the hospital. In other words, policy changes at the federal level. This is in D.C., of course, so the district as well. So that's the good news front. The less good news front, I was not familiar with this dude named Jonathan Voss Ness. I guess he was one of the stars of Jonathan Van Ness. He looks like Kenny Loggins in a dress. He was one of the stars of Queer Eye, Straight Eye, or Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. He just entered a contractual relationship with Ulta Beauty, women's beauty product outfit. He's also featured in Sephora stores. We see a picture of him. Again, Kenny Loggins, long hair, like Conviction of the Heart Kenny Loggins, long hair, beard, in a dress with other women, and he's got, I guess, cosmetic products. Here was him making his entrance into an Ulta Beauty to celebrate this partnership with Ulta Beauty I was describing.
JVN Hair is now at Ulta, and I'm here to see the display for the first time, you guys. Hi, honey. What's your name? Paulina. Nice to meet you, Paulina. Hi. Nice to meet you. What's your name, honey? Nice to meet you. We're going to see what JVN Hair looks like at Ulta for the first time. It's going to be Ulta fun. Okay, let's see it. Who is that? She's so pretty. I got highlights since then. You guys, do you think it's pretty?
It's gorgeous.
Do you think she's going to get along with all of her other new Ulta friends?
Gorgeous. She fits right in.
She does, right? Mm-hmm. JVN Hair is now at Ulta Beauty nationwide. We love the hair you have.
He's fun. For more on this topic, particularly as it relates to kids, not so much Jonathan Van Ness and adults, Pamela Garfield-Jaeger joins us. She's a licensed social worker in California, known as the Truthful Therapist. She's the author of A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families, and the just-released children's book, Froggy Girl, One Therapist's Answer to the Gender Book Industry. Pamela Garfield-Jaeger, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us about the advice before we get to the book and sort of the book industry at the grade school level. Tell us about some of the advice and counsel you give parents who are at odds with their kids when it comes to a desire to change their identity.
Well, it's a difficult answer because it depends on the age and the situation. However, I have a lot of advice when they're in the home versus when they're a little older and they're outside of the home, like a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things I advise parents to do is to limit or even cut off social media and internet use, because a lot of this is coming from the internet. So that is one of the first things. Most parents are aware of that, but it's one of the first things, points of advice. But the way I look at this whole gender thing is I don't look at it as an innate characteristic, as though someone was born with it, as a lot of the gender activists believe. The way I see it is that it's some kind of underlying issue that the child is using to express some other uncomfortable feelings, whether that be their body changing, a problem within the family, sexual trauma, struggles with autism. There's all different kinds of situations. So my advice a lot is about recognizing what is happening with your child within your family and addressing those issues and helping them with those issues, as opposed to focusing so hard on the gender.
Well, right. I mean, the part about social media and the web is the social contagion part that has been sort of well documented. I mean, how else to explain the explosion in young people identifying as something other than their biological sex? But it's a little bit more complicated in states like California, where you have the state as sort of a foreboding presence threatening to intervene if you're dead naming your child or otherwise doing anything short of celebrating whatever decision they made, no matter the age.
Yes, California, a few other states too, Oregon, Washington, even New York, New Jersey. It's more difficult there. And I no longer live there, but I lived in California. I testified against even one of the bills that was hell-bent on destroying families, taking away parental rights. So the government really is not in the favor of parents. So that is why a lot of my counsel is about building the relationship with your child and, strengthening your family, because that is what a lot of these bills are about. They're about kind of dividing the families and against what the parents' wishes are. And
so the Froggy Girl book that you've written, the children's book, what's the angle of that book?
So this is a book that I think maybe 10 years ago, pretty much everyone on any political spectrum would have liked. It's about self-acceptance. It's about a little girl who wants to be a frog, and her teacher and her parents and her friends, they're all really nice, so they affirm her froggy identity. But then she goes and tries to do the froggy thing. She tries to catch flies. She tries to go swimming, and she doesn't do very well because she's not a frog. And then she feels really lonely. So she goes on a little walk, and she meets a wise turtle. And the wise turtle teaches her and helps her accept that she's a beautiful little girl. So at the end, she's singing and dancing and celebrating that she's a little girl. So it's just about self-acceptance and recognizing that you can't just pretend to be something else. You can't just declare that you're something else just because you want to. It doesn't work out.
And so have you been labeled a transphobe and excoriated on social media yet?
The trans activists haven't found Froggy Girl in regard to this book. However, I've certainly been labeled that many times before due to the other book that you named, A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families. That book is much more directly about not affirming a gender identity and working on the underlying issues and giving parents alternate resources so that they're not divided and landed into dangerous hormones and surgeries. So certainly, yes, I'm a big transphobe in the world. That's okay. I'll take that label.
You're in good company with J.K. Rowling and so many others.
For sure.
You wrote about a note you received from a young woman after you launched the Froggy Girl, the name of your book, the Froggy Girl website. What was that note?
Oh, yeah. That email came in before I even released it. I just put the website out. I didn't think I had any clicks or anybody even saw. And you think you put things out in the void and nobody sees it. And then I got this incredible message from this young woman. She is a detransitioner, which is somebody who used to believe she was transgender and took the hormones and later regretted it. And the message to me was just how she said she felt really compelled to write to me because she wished she had a book like this when she was a little girl. She had a lot of mental health issues, and she really struggled, but she didn't like wearing dresses. I believe she struggled with her sexual identity. And the adults in her life told her she was transgender, and she took testosterone, and she had some challenges on the testosterone, and later detransitioned, or just recognized that it was all a lie for her. And she went through a lot of heartache. And she said she really wished there was a book like mine, like Froggy Girl, that to help her as a little girl appreciate herself. Just as a little girl, she believes that if she had more books like that in her life, that she wouldn't have been through that. That was really special to get such a message.
Yeah, for sure. No, and the people like the Chloe Coles of the world and Prisha Mosley, the detransitioners who've spoken out and share in sometimes graphic detail what they did and the physical and mental implications of it. I mean, they're giving great witness to the unbelievably terrible public policies and judgment calls of medical professionals with respect to these I would call them mutilations of kids. And I wonder if you think that the pendulum is swinging back. Because on the one hand, thanks to the Cass report in the UK and HHS guidance here and the regulatory environment as these children's hospitals are describing the change in policy orientation of the federal government, I wonder if you're seeing movement back towards sanity, or if it's still very uneven, because on the one hand you have these reports and the pressure on these hospitals to comply. On the other hand, you still have the same sort of LGBTQIA political movement and cultural mavens that are celebrated, and they're continuing on with these charades.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say I'm proud to know those two women he talked about, Prisha and Chloe, and they both endorse Froggy Girl personally. So they're incredible, and they are a big part of this pendulum swinging that you're discussing. And they've been in front of several committees and governments and testimonies, and I think they have shifted a lot of the public opinion. And plus, others out there have done the same. So yeah, it's both. Certainly, the tide is turning. Thanks to the federal government, thanks to several states putting bans on gender affirming care, which is really just harm on children in the name of what they believe is acceptance. However, I am a therapist. I'm actually a social worker. I used to be proud of that label. Now I'm not so much, because my field is really hell-bent on pushing this still. So what they're doing is they are going a little more underground, and they still believe in this. I really do liken it to a cult and a religion. It's so you cannot reason with them. So they are pushing forward. However, I do believe even on both sides of the political aisle, people are waking up to the problems of this, the harms, and how it's not helping children. And a lot of them just didn't even recognize it's happening on the level that it's been happening. And I think this is one issue that maybe even persuaded the election in 2024. So I think it's still going to be a struggle. The culture still needs a lot of time. As you played that little commercial just before you brought me on, clearly the marketing companies still think that this is a way to get their customers, although I think they've already gotten a lot of backlash for that. We saw Bud Light get a lot of backlash at what year was that, 2023.
Yeah.
So certainly.
Yeah. Where is Dylan Mulvaney when you need him, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They sounded very similar, the two men.
Yes. Very similar wardrobes too, unfortunately.
So the culture is shifting, but
I know
it take time.
I saw Rahm Emanuel made the courageous announcement on Megyn Kelly's podcast that boys and girls are different. Wow. What a concession.
I know.
But now he's probably running for president, so that's why he's chosen to make that concession, because he's trying to find a lane. So I wouldn't give him too much credit. But I mean, the idea that is a newsworthy event, that somebody says boys or girls are different because they're potentially seeking higher office, shows you how far we have to go yet, I think. Anyway, Pamela Garfield-Jaeger, thanks so much for joining us. She's a California licensed social worker. She's known as the Truthful Therapist and Truth Therapist is her handle on X. The books, A Practical Response to Gender Distress, Tips and Tools for Families, and her just-released children's book that we've been talking about, Froggy Girl. Froggy Girl is the new children's book. Pamela Garfield-Jaeger, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
And she joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Crosscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Crosscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to